Today we're playing the Viking survival game Valheim. I'll show you how to get up and running fast so that you can get the most out of this game right from the beginning. I'm going to be playing Victor the Viking. So let's create a world and get started. The aim of this game is to kill the bosses. First is the deer boss, Eikthyr. But before we can take on the boss, we need to get prepared. In this video, I'm going to show you how to collect the important resources, wood and stone. We're going to use these to craft a stone axe. We'll use the axe to collect a ton of wood, and we'll use all of this wood to build an epic Viking base. Once we've got a base set up, we need to go and explore to find the ocean. Along the coastline, we'll hunt some water lizards for food. We'll also find some flint. We'll use the flint to craft a knife. We'll use the knife to hunt some boars. We'll use the boar leather scraps to craft a bow. We'll use the bow to hunt deer, and we'll use the deer leather to make armour. We will then finally be prepared and be able to take down the first boss. When you start a new game, you'll start at these sacrificial stones. Now the glowing tablet here shows you where the first boss is. If you interact with it by pressing E on your keyboard, it'll show you where you can find Eikthyr, the first boss. Hugin the bird's going to be following us around, giving us tips from time to time. I'm going to pretty much ignore him, but if this is your first time playing, I'd highly recommend listening to what he has to say. So let's start by gathering resources. First of all, we're going to need some wood and some stones. There's a branch here that we can just pick up, and there's also a stone. Now the little stones are quite small. You'll know you found the right ones because you can pick them up by pressing E. You can also punch these little tiny trees to get some wood. You can left click your mouse to punch. If you punch one of these little saplings enough, you'll destroy it and your Viking will automatically pick up the wood. Now at this point in the game you could get attacked by wild animals. That's okay, don't worry, you can take them. All you need are your fists and your feet. You can left click your mouse button to punch the boars, and that should be enough to take them down at this point. If you're feeling up to it, you can get a little bit more advanced. If you use your middle mouse button, you can actually kick. This will send the enemy flying backwards and stun them for a second, but it does do less damage than punching. You can also hold the right mouse button to block. If you hold down the block button, you can use the spacebar to roll out of the way. Don't worry if this is a bit too complicated, you'll get the hang of it later. You can press the tab key to open your inventory. The items across the top that are numbered you can access using the numbers on your keyboard, and the other items are just things in your backpack. You can organise them however you want. Just watch that you don't carry too much weight. If you carry too much stuff, your Viking will become encumbered. Now that we've got some wood and some stone, we can craft a stone axe. Open up your inventory by pressing tab, and over on the right hand side here you can see the crafting menu. Select the stone axe and hit craft. Now the good thing about a stone axe is we can use it to chop down trees, but we can also use it as a weapon. Now you have to hit things quite a few times to destroy them before you can pick up the wood. When you do chop down a tree, be very careful and make sure it doesn't fall on you, because that's gonna hurt. I must reiterate, be very careful that the tree doesn't actually fall on you. When this tree started to glitch out like this, I should have just run away. But instead, Victor the Viking had a tree fall on his head. So this is a good chance to talk about death. If you die in Valheim, all you have to do is run back to your corpse and you can gather up all the materials that you dropped. We need a lot of wood to build a base, so let's get chopping. Didn't you hear what I said? We're building a house, not a cubby. We need a lot of wood. Keep chopping. Okay, good work, that'll do. The next step is to set up a base. So open up your crafting menu by pressing tab, select a hammer in the crafting menu, and press craft. Now find a nice relatively flat piece of ground where we can start building our base. Pull out your hammer. When you right click your mouse, it pulls up a menu of all the different things you can craft. The first thing we're going to want to craft is a workbench. So locate the workbench under the crafting tab, then find a nice flat bit of ground and then use the left mouse button to put it down. The workbench allows us to do two things. First of all, we can start to build structures. Second of all, we can build more advanced items from the workbench itself. Using the hammer, go into the building tab and select a wooden floor. Now when I do this, you'll see that there's a white dotted circle around the workbench. You can only build structures while you're standing within this circle. You can place items outside the circle, but you have to be inside the circle. You'll see that when I step outside the circle, it says this workbench requirement is no longer met, and I can no longer place any more floors. Now one last thing, while you've got the hammer out, you can use the middle mouse button to dismantle any item. This will give you a full refund for all materials, which is fantastic. Now if you start to run out of wood, here's a sneaky trick for getting a lot of wood real easy. If you find one of these abandoned structures, you can build a workbench nearby, and then you can use the middle mouse button to dismantle the structure, and it'll drop a lot of wood. Now it can actually take quite a while to dismantle a house, and it'll quickly deplete your stamina, leaving you standing around waiting for the bar to recharge. So if you're smart, you will just dismantle the foundations, and then the rest of the house will fall in on itself, and you can pick up all the lumber. Now before you can craft some high quality tools at your workbench, you need to make sure there's a roof over the top of your workbench. So let's build ourselves a base and put a workbench inside. Find some ground that's relatively flat, and let's start with some wood floors. Now when you're holding the hammer, if you mouse over some of the pieces that you've already placed, they'll glow blue if they're touching the ground. These pieces here that are glowing green are not actually touching the ground, so they're being supported by the other pieces that are touching the ground. So as I start to attach more pieces to this structure, you'll see that this piece is no longer green, it's actually orange. That means it's getting a bit unstable. Now as we extend out further, it starts to go red, and if we go too far, that part of the structure will start to collapse. To get around this, we can use a wooden post to hold up our base. So if we place the post right here, you can see that the floor is now green, and the post shows as blue because it's touching the ground. Make sure the foundation of your base is well supported by posts. And then it's time to start putting up the walls. You can use the mouse wheel to rotate the wall pieces. Note that there is an inside and an outside. It doesn't really do anything, but it looks better if you get it around the right way. Make sure you leave a space for the door. Now when it comes to building doors, I like to put on gates. A door is only 1 block high, whereas these gates are 1.5 blocks high, and your character doesn't bump his head coming in and out. Now remember to keep an eye on the stability of your house. If things are starting to get orange, you probably want to use a few posts to try and sturdy things up. You might need to go and put some additional posts underneath your house to make sure it's nice and sturdy. Now the final touch for a house is of course a thatched roof. Now once you've got a bit of a roof up, it doesn't have to be a full roof, you can then dismantle your old workbench and rebuild a new one under the roof. This now lets us use the workbench to craft more advanced items. Okay, let's detour for a second. I want to talk to you a little bit about landscaping. So one of my favourite items in the game is this hoe. You can craft it at the improved workbench, and if you equip the hoe and right click, it'll let you choose between 3 options. You can level the terrain, you can raise the terrain, or you can convert the terrain into a path. Now I believe path only removes the grass. It doesn't actually change the shape of the terrain. So here you can see I'm having a bit of trouble getting in my door. It's a bit of a step up. So what you can do with your hoe is you can just level the terrain, and there you go, you can walk straight in your front door without having to jump. Very nice. Now to finish off the roof, we're going to go outside. I built a ladder so I can get a bit of elevation to see what I'm doing. We'll use a few half walls here to fill the gaps, and some of these angled walls to finish it up. And then a nice crossbeam here to finish it off. Beautiful. Now that our base is built, we can set our spawn point. Use your hammer, go into the furniture tab, select your bed, find the place you'd like to place it, and left click to build. Once your bed is placed, don't forget to go up to it and interact with it to set your spawn point. Now anytime you die, you will respawn on your bed. Okay, let's finish off our base by putting in a campfire. Now a campfire can't be placed on a wooden surface, you have to place it on the dirt. So if you want, you can place it outside, or you can make a fireplace. To do this, simply pull out your hammer, delete the floor, and place your campfire directly on the dirt. Now you can probably see the problem with this design. The smoke will actually suffocate us. So before the smoke builds up too much, let's punch a hole in the ceiling. And now to make sure the smoke gets funneled up that hole, let's build a chimney. So we'll do this simply by building some walls around the fire pit. If you run outside and have a look, you'll see that there's a big hole in the roof, which means that when it rains, the rain's just going to come straight in and put out the fire. So, my base! Let's put a roof over the top, angled so that the rain can't get in, but the smoke can get out. Perfect. Now from the hammer menu, we can put a cooking station over the fire pit. You should be able to squeeze about 3 or 4 over one fireplace. And then we can interact with the cooking station to cook some of that raw boar meat that we collected earlier. It takes a few seconds for the meat to cook. Make sure you stand here and keep an eye on it. When you hear it sizzle, you can take the meat off the fire. If you leave it on too long, then all your meat will turn into charcoal, and we probably don't want that at this stage. A good diet is important for a healthy Viking. Eating food can increase your health, stamina, and regeneration, depending on what type of food you're eating. You can find and gather berries and mushrooms around the world. You can also cook the meat that you get from killing animals. Your Viking can digest 3 different types of food at a time. Down in the bottom left corner you can see the foods that are currently digesting. Meat is really good, it gives you a lot of health, so make sure you've always got some meat in your belly. You can see our health almost immediately jumps from 30 up to 41, and it will continue to jump up as we continue to digest this meat. It's now time to become a hunter. You're going to want to use your new workbench to create both a flint knife and a crude bow. We'll start off with the knife. For this we're going to want to go and get some flint. We can find the flint near big bodies of water. When you find a big body of water, walk along the shoreline looking for flint. Flint looks like a particularly smooth stone. Great! Now we've got flint, let's craft a knife. Go to your workbench, select the knife, and craft. Let's use this knife to go hunting. If you find yourself near water, keep an eye out for these little lizard creatures called necks. They're really easy to kill, and they won't attack you unless you attack them first. If you kill necks, you can get their tails, and that gives you a second type of meat that's different from the boar meat that we've been farming earlier. So you can eat cooked meat as well as necktail at the same time. This will give you a huge boost to your health. We're going to need a bunch of boar leather to make a crude bow, so let's get murdering. Okay, now that we've killed a bunch of boars and we've got a lot of leather scraps, we can finally make a bow. So back to our workbench, let's select the crude bow on the right and press craft. Now of course we're also going to want a few arrows, so select wooden arrows and craft some of them as well. Now that we've got a bow, we can go hunt some deer. The trick is, first of all, not to startle them. Second of all, aim the bow slightly above where they're standing. Hold down left click on your mouse to draw your bow. Hold it in for a decent amount of time and then release to send the arrow flying. If you spook a deer and it runs away, it can be very difficult to kill it. Just keep an eye on your stamina. If your stamina runs out, your Viking won't take the shot. You might find it easy to sneak up on the deers. To do that, press Ctrl and your character will crouch and silently creep around. This lets you take your time, line up your shot and get the kill. Now the next step is to get lots of leather so that we can make leather armour. Now to craft some better armour, you're going to first need to upgrade your workbench. To do this, pull out your hammer, and under the crafting tab, you'll see that you can build both a chopping block or a tanning rack. Under each of these items you'll see that they're workbench improvements. So I'll build the chopping block since that's the cheapest one, and when you select it you'll see that there's orange particles that connect the block to the workbench. Make sure you place the chopping block somewhere that it's connected to the workbench. I'm going to put it right next to it. Now next time you open your workbench you'll see that it's got a star here with a 2 inside of it. That means it's a rank 2 workbench, and you can now make rank 2 recipes. Now you can craft yourself a leather tunic, some leather pants, and if you've got enough leather, a leather helmet. I didn't have enough leather so I just went with the tunic and the pants. Make sure you right click each of the items to actually equip it, and congratulations, you've got yourself some leather armor. Great work! We should now be prepared to fight the boss. We've got lots of food, including 2 different types of meat. We've got leather armor, we've got a bow and arrow, heaps of arrows, and things are looking good. And let's go and visit Eikthyr. Run to the spot where the boss is marked on your map. Now when we get there we should find this altar. we have to offer the right item at the altar to summon the boss. There's a runestone here which will give you tips as to which item you need to use. The hint here is hunt his kin. So we've killed some deer nearby and we've collected a deer trophy. Let's offer up that on the altar and see what happens. But before we do, please subscribe to the channel. This lets me know that you're interested in the content and I'll make more videos in the future. Now this guy might look big and scary, but he's actually not too hard. He has 3 main attacks that you've got to watch out for. The first attack is this massive stomp, which does lightning damage to anyone near the boss, which I cop straight to the face. But that's okay, I'm a strong Viking and I can take it. I found that the best strategy was to keep a lot of distance between me and the boss at all times. His second attack is a blast of lightning. It takes a while to charge up this attack, so you have a bit of time to sidestep it. He also does a headbutt, which isn't too hard to step away from. Keep your distance, fire off arrows when you can, and dodge his attacks. Keep an eye on his body language. If he looks like he's about to charge or something, he probably is, so it doesn't hurt to just roll away, sidestep, because he's probably going to shoot some lightning at you. In summary, keep some distance between you and the boss to avoid the blast, sidestep his lightning, and shoot arrows at him whenever you get the chance. It might take a while, but keep at it. Make sure you stock up on lots of arrows before fighting this guy, because it does take a lot of hits to take him down. You can see here, if he rears up on his hind legs, he's about to shoot a blast of lightning. This gives you plenty of time to move to the side and keep out of the way. Remember to keep an eye on your stamina. You don't want to use up all your stamina by running, because otherwise you won't have any left to shoot your arrows. So keep your distance, fire off as many arrows anytime you can, and avoid his attacks. Remember that you can roll to quickly move out of the way of attacks. Hold the right mouse button and press the space bar to roll. You can use this roll to very quickly get out of the way of all of the boss's attacks. I told you it took a while, but we got there in the end. Once the boss is dead, he will drop a trophy, as well as some hard antler. Take the trophy back to the stones where you started. On Eikthyr stone you will find a hook. Interact with the hook to hang the trophy. You can then interact with the trophy to activate Eikthyr's power. Now that you've activated Eikthyr's power, anytime you press F on your keyboard, you will get a strong buff. This will increase your ability to run and jump. It also reduces the stamina cost of jumping and running. So if you ever need to get somewhere in a hurry, press F to activate Eikthyr's power and off you go. Now the hard antler can be taken back to your workbench. You can use this to make an antler pickaxe. You can now use this pickaxe to mine rocks and other minerals. But that is a story for another day. Thanks so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and I might see you next time. So with that, we've covered most of the basics of the game, and that should give you enough to get started. So the next step is to go and find the Black Forest and use your new antler pickaxe to mine some copper and some tin. Good luck!